Did you know that more people buy from you versus buying from your business? Sure, they like the products and services you offer, but ultimately they buy from you. And whether you know it or not, you need to not only build your business brand, but also your personal brand. And what's the main way of doing that? Social media. If you didn't know, social media is your biggest marketing tool. You need to be active on it to help build your brand. But the question is, how do we do that? What are the components we need to think about when building a personal brand? My guest today is Alex Urban, and this guy knows a thing or two about building a brand. He's built multiple successful Shopify stores and helped many others scale their business by using the tools he's going over with us today, including an apparel company that he helped go from $60,000 all-time sales to over $900,000 in 3 months. We go over why building a personal brand is crucial to building a successful business. We go deep into how to do that, down to what social media platforms to be on, how to post to those platforms, and what to post. If that sounds at all interesting to you, stick around for this episode with Alex Urban. This is Utah Hustlers, the podcast that helps you build your business to $10,000 a month. My name is Skylar Beitendorf, and my mission is to help you achieve success, happiness, and freedom on your own terms.
My name is Alex, and I am a e-commerce entrepreneur and a mindset, business, fitness, and nutrition coach.
So Alex, how did you make your first 10K a month?
First 10K a month was actually made over a Shopify store a very long time ago in the jewelry niche. I started out actually doing mortgages, and I figured that there's a better way of living life, and that was not sitting in a cubicle. So I wanted to figure out ways to work from my laptop. That eventually led into doing a marketing agency, and then bled into me running my own e-commerce businesses through Shopify. And I started experimenting with selling jewelry, and it was actually women's jewelry in the wine niche. So I had like these necklaces that had little wine glasses and a crystal in it. And that was the first business I ever had that took off and made my first 10K a month. From there, I started working under multiple different mentors in the same kind of field, learning under them, kind of honing in on my skills. Then eventually it led to me running my own businesses, helping others scale their own businesses. But first 10K was made right through Shopify.
So it being Shopify, that's not something a lot of people grow up thinking, I'm going to run a Shopify store.
No.
What got you into the Shopify and building online stores?
So the biggest thing was I wanted the freedom to be able to travel and kind of not be in a cubicle every single day. And so at that time, I started stumbling across all these little gurus on the internet, and they're talking about internet marketing. And it's something that piqued my interest because everybody's like, oh, go make 10K a month from your laptop, go make 10K a month from your laptop anywhere in the world. And I was like, that actually sounds great. I'm going to go ahead and buy into their stuff. And so eventually I bought into some of the programs and started learning like the skill sets on how to advertise online. And that led into me reaching out to local businesses. I did F45, Complete Nutrition, some other kind of fitness and supplement brands here locally to Utah. And I started helping them grow their business. And then it got to a point where they didn't have enough money to spend on ads to do what I truly wanted to do to help them grow. And I was like, well, this is a very valuable skill set I have. Is there any way I can do this with my own business and my own company? And that's where, after kind of doing some research, I stumbled upon Shopify, which is an e-commerce platform where you can build your own business. Online, it's like a website builder and a back-end type platform. And from there, I found some products that I could drop ship. So I had a product to sell, and I started plugging in all the skills and knowledge that I had learned from the marketing agency point of view and plugged that into my own business, and my company started taking off.
So you bought that course on how to do social media marketing. And even though it wasn't something that you necessarily went big on, it was still a lot of valuable skills that you learned to help build your own brand and to scale an online business.
Exactly.
Was there one thing that you had to change to make that 10K a month, or was it multiple little things that you had to change?
It was multiple little things. Like back in the day when I was running my first e-commerce businesses, it is drastically different than it is now. Yeah. Facebook was giving you a much higher return on your advertising dollars. Your store didn't have to be so branded and optimized to like really make a sale. People on Facebook were seeing ads for the first time, and it was like almost like a buying frenzy. Whereas there were a lot of people, unfortunately, who got in the niche and they were like drop shipping, kind of scamming these people out of their money. And now people become very wary to buy off of Facebook. Your ad dollars don't go as far. So like back then it was just kind of the basics, right? So it's like I had to test multiple different products to figure out what would actually sell, what price point would sell. I'd build out a store and I'd be like, okay, these little digital mock-ups aren't going to do much for me. I need to start taking some lifestyle pictures. I need to work with an actual graphic designer instead of creating my own logo on Canva and like figure out this whole branding game to make my store look like a legitimate company online. Because at that point, it's like anybody could toss up a product online. But you know, if a stranger comes to your site and it looks like a kindergartner put it together, you're not going to have that trust factor for someone to make a buying decision. So the multiple little things from like truly building a brand, building a community, testing different products, and really figuring out like an offer and an angle in which to sell that product, that's where things started taking off.
So when we're building a brand, I heard you say on another podcast you're on that when you build a brand, you want to make it look like $1 million brand. How does someone make it look like $1 million brand?
The biggest component to me, like when you're building a brand, it's a two-pronged approach, right? Number one is that you need to have your digital assets dialed in with your photography, with your videography, with the way that you present your brand online. People notice that, you know, when you are selling a t-shirt online and you have the same mock-up on the same model for 50 different shirts, that doesn't feel like a brand that I can trust giving my money to. However, if I have people who are modeling my clothes online that fit the exact customer avatar that I'm targeting, that now puts a perception in my mind that it's like, hey, these are the type of people, this is the type of tribe I want to be a part of. And it makes your brand look very, you know, much more high end. There's a reason they use the models that they do for Nike. There's a reason that they use the models that they do for other large clothing brands. It's because they're trying to show their avatar in their clothes and plant that image in your mind that you want to become that person. So getting away from like all the mock-ups, all the stock imagery, like you really need to focus on like building that perception in someone's mind through your digital assets, through your photos and videos and social media posts, where they can now make that buying decision because they're like, hey, I want to be like this brand. I want to belong to this brand. This brand looks a lot bigger than it is because they're not just using digital mock-ups on their entire site.
And you've helped a couple businesses do that. And the last company you worked for, they were at what, 60,000 a year, and then you brought them up to 900,000 a year.
Yeah. So
is that right?
Last company I worked for, Lions Not Sheep. So they had originally done literally all time over business. They'd done $60,000 in sales. I started in...
Oh, that was all time?
That was all time, $60,000 since the beginning in 2014 when the owner launched the brand. Now, I joined in May 5th. It was Cinco de Mayo. So yeah, May 5th of 2020. I had a 90-day trial period because the owner wanted to make sure I knew what I was doing. And literally within the first 90 days, we did $960,000 in sales. And then within the 3 years that I worked there, we did $19.6 million in sales, growing it from 60,000 over lifetime.
So that pretty much showed that you knew what you were doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Bringing it up that much. And a big part of that was the digital assets. And digital assets, someone might not know exactly what that means. Specifically, what are digital assets to someone?
Anything you post online. So it can be, very, very high level. It's pictures and videos, but that also bleeds into all your social media posts, you know, your banners, your profile pictures, your videos on YouTube, your content that you post on Instagram, your stories, like all these things need to be very focused in on, or you're pretty much just throwing stuff against the wall and hoping that it sticks. So it's like with Lions Not Sheep, the reason that we were able to scale that so quickly was because like visually we were implanting into someone's head like what it meant, again, to be a lion, not a sheep. You know, the name of the brand helped a ton with the brand because it told you exactly what the brand was, you know, within the brand name. But like in someone's head, they're like, okay, this is like a pro-America brand that, you know, is for people who enjoy like planting their flag in the sand. They enjoy, having their viewpoints on certain things like pro-America. They love guns. They love God. Like, you know what I mean? But what does that lifestyle look like? And it's like one of our first big marketing campaigns that we did. We went out to the salt flats and we were like riding around in 4-wheelers and razors and dirt bikes and shooting guns and fireworks and all this stuff. And like people are looking at that like, yeah, like that's America. That's what I want to be a part of. And like once we visually started planting those things in our consumers' minds, they're like, this is the cool brand. This is the brand that I want to be a part of. Like these people, those are my people. So it's like once that kind of got in their head, you started building a tribe, which is like one of the main components to building a brand nowadays is you have to build a tribe. You have to build a community. Like people want to belong to something, and people are themselves like a billboard for certain brands. They say and they wear things that they represent. Like you're wearing a, American flag on your hat. So you take it that you're very much a patriot, but it's like you yourself want to belong to something. And so for you, it's like you want to be part of like a patriotic community. And that's the reason why you're wearing apparel with an American flag on it. So people have to visualize that. They have to be sold into what your brand stands for and the community that your brand revolves around. And that's really the key to building any kind of brand online nowadays.
To put a brand simply, it almost sounds like a brand is what people see and like how that makes them feel.
A brand's it's an entire ecosystem. It's what they see. It's how it makes them feel. It's the community of other people who also wear the brand and, support the brand. So a brand to me is like almost its own little universe, because within that universe, there's multiple components of it. Your brand can have live events. Your brand can have a podcast. Your brand can have a YouTube channel. Your brand can have, merch. It can sell supplements. It can sell anything that it want. So it's like that whole brand universe. There's so many things that go inside of there. So brand is not just a logo. A brand is not just a picture. A brand is not just a product. A brand is literally a universe that you're creating for people to be a part of.
I like that a lot. Apple popped in my head when you said that. It's like Apple has at least started with, I think, just computers. Like not even laptops, like desktops. And now that they built such a big name brand for them, they can start to build watches. I mean, it's all kind of under the same like technology thing, but they can almost build whatever they want. They can build a screen wiper and charge $50 for it or whatever, But because it's Apple, people will buy from it. People will like to say, oh, I have all the Apple stuff or the latest, the coolest iPhone and all that.
Yep.
Okay, so there's two kinds of brands. There's your personal brand and your business brand. Do those bleed into each other?
Absolutely. I think that we're now in an age where you are your brand, obviously with your personal brand, but your personal brand is more of a leader to your business than your actual business is. So like the people that I coach with helping grow in their e-commerce business, I'm like having to put a heavy emphasis on this, is that people don't necessarily buy from brands anymore. The only reason they buy from brands are when you have these huge, biggest brands in the world, Coca-Cola, Apple, whatever. It's like, you're going to buy those because it's like of what they've built, right? But it's like now, if you're starting from scratch and you're like, hey, how do I go from $0 a month in sales to $20,000 a month in sales? People will buy through you. People do not buy through your brand. If you started a brand that has no name attached to it, you're going to struggle very, very, very hard, no matter what your product is, no matter what your offer is, to get traction on that. When people can see behind the scenes, when they can get transparent with the owner and how they're growing the business, and they can get invested into that story of you building, growing, and scaling your business, that's what ultimately sells people. And when you build a strong enough personal brand online, it doesn't matter if you're selling popsicles or hot sauce or t-shirts or whatever it is that you want to sell. People are so connected to you from the value that you've put online through your personal brand that they will support you in any of those journeys and any of those ventures. And a lot of time, that's a little gasoline that you need at the very beginning to ignite the business and actually bring it to life. Whereas if you're just like, hey, I don't want anybody to know I own this brand, I'm going to go find a product, run a sale, run some ads on social media, you're going to have a very hard time running that. And again, people don't connect with brands. I'm not like emotionally connected to Apple, let's say, or Coca-Cola, Right. But it's like, there are people like, let's say Andy Frisilla in First Form. Like, I met Andy in person. I spent time with him. His podcast is originally what got me on the route of becoming an entrepreneur. And so it's like, I was so invested into Andy that I was like, I don't care what he sells. I want to be able to support it, whether it's his proteins, his pre-workouts. And it's like, are they the best products on the market? That's debatable, but I don't really care because I want to support him. I don't care if he charges $100 for a jar of protein or $20 for a jar of protein. With the amount of value that he's provided into my life, I'm going to support him and his business. And that's truly what has grown that brand. So that's a perfect example.
Yeah, it's brand loyalty.
Exactly.
Right there. Yeah.
Yep.
That reminds me. So like when my first business was a window cleaning business, I've started a lot of different things, but it was window cleaning. I was 18 and I went to my neighborhood that I'd grown up in and just knocked on doors and said, hey, can I clean your windows? Yep. And I don't think that people bought from me because they wanted their windows cleaned, like they were looking for window cleaner, is because Skylar's here. We know who he is. He's a young guy. He's out here hustling. Exactly. We're going to buy from him, help him with his business, support him because it's Skylar. It was because it was me, not because they necessarily need the window cleaning. So I totally agree with what you're saying is people need to build that personal brand because that's going to overall make them the most amount of money. So how does someone build a personal brand?
So personal brand is very fun because there's a lot of different ways that you can do it. But the thing is, you need to understand like what is the end result and how do you want to be perceived as a personal brand? I'm not going to say that there's a right way to do it and there's a wrong way to do it. I have my own opinions on it, right? But to me, the best way to build your personal brand is by providing value to your audience day after day after day after day, right? So everybody has their own area of expertise. I would say that the best way to get started is by sharing your area of expertise. For me, it's building online businesses. I got a lot of traction growing my personal brand by sharing things that I was doing every single day, regardless, just with the world. So I was like, hey guys, here's how I made an extra $20,000 by sending out an SMS campaign today. oh, here's how we created our own app via Tapcart for our new store. Here's how he did this. Here's how he did this. Here's how he do this. And it's like, it was providing tips and value to people that then kind of congregated and found me and now are now kind of attached to like, hey, Alex is always providing value to me with business tips or with tips on how to build my online brand. And so that is a great way to get started, is by finding your area of expertise. You know, if you're a real estate teacher, biologist, whatever occupation that you're at, you are an expert at something, and there's people out there who are wanting the little golden nuggets that you have to offer. And that's the best way to start growing your personal brand. On top of that, with like scaling your personal brand, there's a multitude of different ways that you can do it. And again, that's where you need to have the end picture in mind, because it's like, I have friends who were literally some of the top like YouTube pranksters in the entire world, right? Which is really cool. But it's like, they were always struggling, and they're still struggling on monetizing that, because all they're doing is they're doing these like fake pranks, and their audience is, 5 to 8 year olds on YouTube watching these obviously skits of these pranks. And they're having a hard time doing anything from selling coaching, even telling people or selling programs on how to like build out their own YouTube channels, because no one can really take that industry very seriously. It's such on the entertainment side that it's very hard to monetize. Whereas if you're like, hey, I have a thing for personal development and working out and nutrition and fitness, and like, I want to help people lose that extra 10 pounds, lose that extra 20 pounds. Well, cool. Now you understand the monetization point of your brand. Now we start to dial in and hone on what type of content that you're pushing out through your stories, through your wall posts. And that's how you really start gaining momentum into monetizing your personal brand, to now making money off of your personal brand. But to start, find your area of expertise. Doesn't matter if you're making burgers and you're a chef and you want to teach people how to make the perfect medium rare burger. If you're a real estate agent, giving people updates on the market, find your area of expertise, start sharing value. And that's really one of the best ways to get started.
It sounds like what you post, it very much needs to be in alignment with how you want to monetize and what you're trying to sell.
Exactly.
Should people be posting on every single social media platform out there? Should they focus on one? What's your take on that?
I think to get started, you need to focus on 2 social media platforms. For me, back in the day when I started, it was Facebook and Instagram. Now it's heavily weighted towards Instagram and TikTok. But I think unless you are like a full-time like person who's building their online portfolio, their personal brand, and being a content creator, it's very hard to juggle all the brands that are out there. It's like all of a sudden you have Instagram popping up with threads, and now everybody's like, oh shoot, I got to figure out this whole threads game, but I also got to do my TikTok and Pinterest and X and Facebook and and it's like, it becomes very much a full-time job, right? And what's even more hard about that is that every platform is unique. And so there's different types of content that are better performing on each platform. So it's not like you can create one video one video posted on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, all these platforms, right? It doesn't really work like that. There's a different type of way that you digest content on TikTok versus Instagram. Same thing with Facebook, same thing with X. So you have to like really just hone in on 2. And then as your audience grows, then you can start saying like, okay, now go follow me over on this platform. But I always tell people, like, until you've mastered like 1 or 2 platforms, don't even bother going to work on the others, because you're going to like be spread so thin that you're probably not going to gain any traction.
So how does someone pick those 2 platforms?
That's a great question. I personally think no matter what, I think Instagram is here to stay. And I think you really need to focus on Instagram no matter what. I just feel like it's a hub where the majority of people are, right? Now, you also have to figure out what are your strengths in producing content. The beauty about Instagram is that it's a photo or a video platform where you can write a post up to a certain amount of characters, right? So it's good because you can have short form posts, long form posts. You can also produce out stories which show what you're doing in real time. The platform is very versatile. So I think no matter what, every single person should have Instagram. Outside of that, the different platforms, now we got to figure out like where your area of expertise is in growing a brand, right? If you're not someone who's comfortable being on video, don't go to TikTok, go to X or Twitter, whatever we want to call it nowadays.
Yeah, I know.
But if you're like, you're good and you're really good at writing, but you're not good at being on video, go to X or go to Twitter and start growing your brand on there. And it's, so you have to figure out like what pieces of content that you're naturally good at producing and go into that realm. Facebook is really good. I don't think Facebook is really where it used to be anymore. They keep trying to monetize like groups and pages and all these things. And I think there's so many hands in the bowl that they're kind of mixed up right now. So just look at like, again, what is your end goal and where is that audience living? Facebook is obviously more of I feel like an older demographic. By older demographic, I mean like 30 plus, especially like 40, 50 plus. That's where you're getting a lot of like customers for a brand if you're running ads. So I know a lot from at least the analytics and the data that I've ran ads to. It's kind of an older platform. Instagram's kind of all encompassing. TikTok is definitely younger. Twitter is kind of that middle ground where there's a little bit younger, but there's also a little bit older, but it's not like, heavily weighted on one side or the other.
Sounds like there's a lot of people on Instagram of all ages, and that's there to stay. Most people are on it. And then people need to figure out where their target audience is.
Exactly.
And then go to that one. So for Instagram, for example, because a lot of social media platforms have a lot of the same components of it, but there's stories, you can do posts like pictures, and then reels. What should people focus on? I'm guessing all three, but what are the benefits of doing each one of those?
So how I have structured my personal brand and how I gain in or bring in leads is from a blueprint that kind of encompasses every single one of those things, right? So what I personally believe is number one, the most important thing, no matter what, is going to be consistency. So it's like when you flip on the on switch, you don't flip it back off. That's the biggest thing that all the algorithms hate, and how you like delay growing your audience is by like posting one day and then waiting a week and then posting another day. And then you go on vacation to Jamaica and now you're posting like 82 times a day. Like, don't do that. Everything has to be consistent. So what I tell people is like a guideline or blueprint to follow is start with doing a post every single day on your wall, right? So like a normal post. I recommend that you alternate. So you do one image post, one reel, one image post, one reel. Reels right now, and again, this could update by the time this video comes out, you never know.
Right.
But reels right now are a great way to grow your audience because Instagram is trying to take back their audience from TikTok. So they're heavily monetizing your reels, going out to new people, people who aren't following you and helping you to build your brand that way. But I would say you need to have at least one image post, and then every other day you do your reels. And then what you should be doing is on your stories is you should have a blueprint around what it is that you're trying to sell or what it is that you're trying to promote, and do that every single day. Because what you don't realize is that as you're posting every single day to your wall, you're getting new eyeballs on your brand. There's people who are brand new every single day coming to your profile, and they don't know who you are. They don't know what your core values are. They don't know what you're an expert at. And so for me, being a coach and in the coaching space, every single day I have an exact blueprint of how I post on social media. I start out my day by posting a quote from a book that I'm reading. I go to the gym and post a few videos of me working out. I then make some lunch and I take a picture and show all the macros. And then I do some lifestyle stuff after that. But it's like every single day, my posts are the exact same. Why do I do that? Because when new eyeballs come into my brand, when new eyeballs come into my Instagram, they see, hey, Alex is an expert at this because he's doing this every single day. And so like when they start to know like, hey, here's who I am. He's a coach, an entrepreneur. He's showing off that he's doing coaching calls every day, podcasts every day, eating right every day, going to the gym every day, reading every day. They know, and they're taking note internally that I'm doing all the things that they know they should be doing. And the cool part about this is like when you're prospecting, bring people into your ecosystem, every single day I post that and continue these stories, it twists the knife just a little bit more. When they see, hey, Alex has not skipped a day working out. Alex has not skipped a day on his macros. Alex has not skipped a day reading. Alex has not skipped a day doing his coaching calls. Alex's, clients are getting all these results and I'm posting them weekly. All of a sudden they're like, how does he have that and I don't? And all of a sudden, boom, you get a DM. Hey, bro, I've noticed that you've been excelling in X, Y, or Z area. I want to work with you. So it's literally like an infinite lead source through your personal brand by reverse engineering what it is that your people want. Now, switching to another conversation with a business, because a lot of people are like, okay, this is a personal brand, but it works the exact same way with a business. So for example, one of my students in my coaching group, she has a snow cone stand, right? And she's been growing her Instagram. Now, one of the things that I told her to do is I was like, with your story posts, every single post on your wall, same thing, image, video, image, video. For a business, your feed is more like a showcase of your brand. It's a showcase of your products. You're not going to get thousands of likes more than likely. You're not going to get hundreds of comments on every post. It's more of like a pretty showcase of what your product is, right? On the stories, however, that's where you want to suck people into your brand. So with her, I'm like, every single day, do 3 stories. Number 1, create a new snow cone flavor. You have 64 different flavors. There's infinite amount of flavors that you can mix and make new things. I can do strawberry, raspberry. I can do an orange and dragon's blood. I can do this and that. But it's like every single day, make a new snow cone and give it a rating on your story. And then number 2, I want you to do a story of the longest line that you've had, right? Like the busiest time of the day to show demand. And then the next story I want you to do is like, hey, we're going to have a 1-hour special sale or something like to get the customers in, right? So how that works in that business ecosystem is that every single day I'm seeing that, hey, here's a new flavor of snow cone. Every day I'm seeing that there's a demand for the snow cone. And every day I know that there's going to be a special popping up sometime in the day. And what that then turns into is that I may have seen that she has a cherry Coke snow cone on Monday. And I'm like, I want to try that now. That may bring me in as a customer on Wednesday or Friday, or even the next week on Thursday. But because it's subconsciously like training my brain that it's like, there's new things there, there's demand for the products, and there's, surprise specials that I could possibly be rewarded from. That's like the ultimate key to a business blueprint on, through your social media to bring in customers that way. So it works the exact same way with a personal brand or with a business brand.
I love that. So consistency is key. I love the blueprint. You spit out some gold right there. But people need to know what to post, because I think a lot of people know they need to post every day to build a personal brand or their business brand, but a lot of people don't know what to post. And so I think that's the beauty right there, is now they know what to post every other day. Picture, reel, picture, reel.
Exactly.
And then with the story, remind me, it's kind of
with the story, it depends on what it is that you're trying to, again, what is your end goal, right? Like I have some of my closest friends, they do marriage coaching. So I'm like, here's your blueprint. It's the exact same thing every day. They go on a walk every single morning. I'm like, take a little selfie video of you guys walking together every single morning. And then, you guys are grabbing coffee together. Like that's your daily thing. And then after that, you guys get on your coaching calls. Then after that, we go out to a nice dinner. And it's like, again, what happens is in the coaching space, especially, all these people who are in relationships or in marriages, they look at their social media and they're like, why can they go on a walk every morning and be holding hands and we can't? Why do they have this cute little coffee date every day and we can't? Why is it that they're able to help people and we can't? Why is it that, again, it's like subconsciously it trains your followers and it twists a knife every single day. And they're like, I want what you have. Now they're reaching out to you. Now you're able to grow business with no ad spend and literally just posting content. So again, it depends on what your end goal is, but that's how you want to structure your story post.
It almost creates this itch that they just have to figure out how you're doing what you're doing. How did you create this life for yourself?
Yep, exactly.
I like that. Tell me what split testing is. Does that apply to this?
It applies to everything, man. Split testing, like I'm a complete data nerd, like to the max. And like split testing is incredibly important for both, any kind of brand or any kind of business that you're running, right? I want to give you an example, and we're going to step back into the business realm for just a second because it's a little bit easier to do it this way.
Yeah.
When I started working with Lions Not Sheep, we were originally selling our t-shirts for $20. And so I was like, okay, I wonder if people would buy our shirts for $25. So there's an app in Shopify that I plugged in that what it would do is every hour on the hour, it would actually update the price of the product online and would keep track of all the data, all the metrics. And then from there, we could make a decision on what performed better. And what was interesting is that we were selling our t-shirts for $20 versus $25. And literally after about a week, I can't remember exactly how long it was, but there's a certain amount of impressions that you need to have on the test for it to be valid. For example, I don't want 20 people looking at each offer and making a decision. I want 1,000, I want 5,000. Like you need a larger sample of data, right? But after that data sample came in, we realized that people actually bought more products at 25 and they converted higher at 25 than they did versus 20. And so we're like, okay, this is interesting. People actually want our product more if it is priced higher. What was really interesting is we did that again, 25 versus $30. Same thing. People converted more on $30 than they did on 25, and they ended up spending more on their order, obviously, because the price is higher. Then rinse and repeat that. Okay, a t-shirt for $30 versus $35. Same exact thing happened. They converted more and bought more at $35 compared to $30. We then tried it at 35 versus 40. And this is what's really interesting is that the conversion rates were higher on 35, but the total amount of orders was lower on 40. So what happened is that we had the exact same revenues and we were like, okay, well, if we want to grow a long-term brand, I want more customers. Like the biggest thing about building a brand is that you need a customer list. That's where all your money's made. So it's like, even though people will buy at 40, there's not as many people buying at 40, even though we have the exact same revenues. So if more people are buying at 35, we're going to keep it there because then we get the quantity of customers and we still get the same amount of sales. It all worked out at the end of the day. So that's an example of split testing, but it's so incredibly important because it's like everything from the button colors on your website, the prices of your website, even like we split tested a model on Lions Not Sheep's website where there was exact same picture of this girl. And in one picture, she was wearing glasses. And on the other picture, she wasn't wearing glasses. Keep in mind, we were selling t-shirts and there was a drastic difference between the amount of people who bought when she had glasses on versus when she didn't have the glasses on in the exact same picture. So everything across your business should be split tested no matter what. There's so many dynamics and so many variables in there that you don't realize where you're bleeding out money. just because these little psychology tricks that you play on people online.
That's wild. I would have expected more people to buy without the glasses because then I feel like they can connect more to the person behind the shirt, but they didn't.
Yeah.
So split testing is just taking two things. You're splitting something down the, like your objective down the middle, and you're testing two different things and figuring out what performs the best. So people can do that with essentially everything: the font, the price, how would someone do that with like a coaching group? Because you can't charge the first half of people $1,000 and the second half $500. How do you do something that's more membership based?
Coaching groups are a little tricky again, because this is an area where it's like you can slowly increase your prices, but the second you decrease your prices and go back, you kind of almost commit like business suicide in my opinion, because once you go from selling X amount, let's say $100 a month, and then you now go down to selling $10 a month, people aren't going to go back up to spending $100 a month, right? So through split testing with like a coaching program, what you want to do is like set your base price. Let's say your coaching costs $100 a month. We'll just keep things simple. What I would end up doing is like I would split test like the angles in which and how I'm getting people into this ecosystem, right? So it's like usually when you're selling coaching programs, you're going to have a website or a sales page or a sales funnel that talks about like, hey, here's a big epiphany that I had in life, and here's how I'm now the expert, and here's how I got the results, yada, 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 right? So I would be split testing that page because that's where your traffic is naturally going to go, and then from there, they're going to go ahead and end up in finding a price. So certain situations, there are things that you don't want to test. But again, I'm glad you asked about coaching, because that's one where it's like, you want to stick to one price. You really, truly do want to stick to one price. Eventually you want to increase it as your value proposition increases, but you can test so many other things before that. Like, for example, it's like if I post a video on social media and I get 2 leads from that, that's a test. And then I post a completely separate style video and I get 10 leads. Okay, well, that type of video actually resonates with my audience better. So for an example, if I'm a coach and I'm, very militant, very aggressive, very like in your face, being like, hey man, you have some fucking tits. You got like 30 extra pounds wrapped around your waist. You need to get to the gym and get in shape. And all of a sudden I get like 20 leads, right? It's like, okay, there's a test. And now I go do another video exact separate. Like, hey man, like, don't you think you'd like feel better and look better if you just drop 10 pounds? Like, I know it's hard, but a very soft approach. And all of a sudden you get 2 leads. That's a split test. Now you know that your audience reacts to that more aggressive style than they do your little softer approach. So you can test out by your content. You can test out on the sales page. There's multiple variables that you can also test there, but it's a little bit more of manual work. Whereas again, on a business, you're like, oh, let me test the price of a t-shirt and just let this app collect all the data. It's like you need to be a little bit more invested manually into the data to test that.
So split testing is important in building a brand. So that way you can build a strong brand, but just a profitable business in general. Is there ever a point that you stop split testing?
Never.
Never. I'll constantly
You're constantly split testing everything. So there's so many factors to split test against each other that you can't possibly ever really stop. Even if you get a product dialed in, like for example, it's like we got a product dialed in and offer dialed in with lines that ship very well. Well, it's like now we got the offer. Let's go ahead and split test running this offer on a Shopify store versus a ClickFunnels. And now let's do it from a ClickFunnels to a website hosted on Webflow. And now let's test this font and this process and this process. Like, even with one of the e-com businesses that I have now, it's kind of a side project, but it's a jewelry company. It's like we have a funnel, and I kid you not, this funnel has like 20 different upsells in it. So an upsell, for those of you who aren't familiar with that, is once you purchase a product, after checkout, you've probably seen it. We're like, hey, do you want to add this for this water bottle for $9? Do you want to add this crystal for $10, right? So it's like we literally have 20 different products after the initial checkout that are continuously getting split tested. And it's crazy because some people literally go through and buy all 20 products when they went in there to get one product. But now I'm trying to figure out like, okay, with this bracelet, how does, what converts best on this? If my lead product, for example, this is a real life example, like our best product that we're selling right now are these bracelets that have crystals that their energies can help you with anxiety. So after they buy that product, right, do they want more amethyst products because amethyst has energetical properties that help with anxiety? Or do they want like a tarot card deck? Or do they want some candles? Do they want some incense? Do they want a bracelet? Or do they want a necklace? Or do they want earrings? Like, the possibilities are literally endless. And so I don't think it ever stops. It's just continually optimizing. And eventually you'll see like all these little dollars and cents will slowly creep up in your profitability and on your bottom line. And then you have a business that you can run ads to, and it almost doesn't even matter what it costs to acquire a customer because you're always profitable because you've dialed in those numbers.
Yeah, I feel like some people will look at that as this big chore and headache, but it almost sounds like something you could have a lot of fun with if you wanted.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah, it's really fun. And again, it's a patience thing, but just test one thing. Like the beauty about online businesses is that you can test something and literally not have to touch it for a week. And then a week later, you come back to the data and you're like, okay, here's what it says. Keep track of it on a spreadsheet. Next week, let's update this. Let's update that. That's it. It can be literally the background wallpaper image that's on the website. It can be the main product picture. Like if I'm trying to sell a bracelet, there's a million different ways I can take a picture of a bracelet. You don't realize that just that image alone, that's the first image someone sees after they click on an ad. There is so much sway that can go one way or another by how you present that first picture they see when they click on your website. Like even just that alone, you could probably test hundreds of different pictures against each other. And you eventually find one that's just like, it goes crazy in your conversions.
Yeah. So test everything. Test everything.
Yep.
Building a personal brand, a lot of it has to do with social media. And a lot of people are afraid to put themselves out there, to say what they really think, to post. And I heard you talk about something one time on the POV challenge. Mm-hmm. What's that?
So this is something that me and my old friend who's a photographer, he originally came up with this idea. So I'm going to give him that, but he stopped and I ran with it. So he really won. But POV challenge on social media, POV is technically point of view. And so I was like barely ever posting on Instagram. And I was like, if I'm ever going to do anything worthwhile, I need more connections online. I need to build out my network. I need to feel more comfortable posting. And so what I did is I always thought that Instagram needs to be like, hey, I need to go get a fancy Sony camera and a nice lens, and I need to have like perfect lighting and the picture edited perfect, and I need to make my life look so great and everything. And like, that's what held me back from posting on social media. I only posted when I like went to Italy, I had a picture. When I went to Israel, I had a picture. When I went to, Mexico, I had a picture. But it's like everything in between was like ghost town. No one knew what I was doing. And so I was like, you know what? I don't care if the picture is high quality anymore. I'm going to take a picture of my point of view every single day at some point in the day and post that and write a caption about some lesson I learned throughout the day or something that went through my mind throughout the day. So like I have a bunch of pictures. I did 600 days straight of posting every single day on Instagram. And it's like some days it was a picture of me going through the car wash with my little Mercedes steering wheel in front of it. Other days it was just me in the office. Some days it was me in front of my computer. Some days it was literally me looking at a bottle of vodka like out at the sunset or whatever. It's like, but that eliminated the need for me to be like, hey, every picture has to be perfect. It just gave me a picture that I could post. And then I had to put a lot of attention and focus into the captions, because that's the other thing is I've had a lot of people experiment with this POV challenge. There's no rules to it other than take a picture of your point of view day and post, right? But through a lot of people going through that same process, I've realized that if that's the way that you want to go about growing your brand, again, you need to put a lot of thought and attention into the message that you're sharing with the picture. I've had some crazy posts go viral that's just a picture of some view of a mountain, right? But the reason it went viral is because of the caption and because of the content that I posted under that. A lot of people just take a picture of their water bottle or of us doing a podcast and they're like, podcast today. Great, but who cares? Who cares that you did a podcast today? What did you learn from the podcast, right? It's like now what I'm telling people is like, as hard as it is to share on social media, the pictures, imagery, video, like I really couldn't care less. Go take a picture, go slap on a filter, post it, whatever. But what you're posting about in that caption, in the text, in the description, that needs to be a message from like the deepest, darkest parts of your soul. You need to get like very, very comfortable being uncomfortable with sharing your truth and providing value and messages and your core beliefs with your audience, because that's what gets people emotionally connected. I can share a message that, I was sitting alone on top of a mountain and it was just me and God talking to each other, and here's what he was telling me and here's what I was learning and here's this whole experience, right? And post a picture of like, the view of the mountain. People are going to go crazy over that because they resonate with that. They understand what it's like being out in nature where it's completely silent and they're having conversations with themselves, getting the messages from God, the universe, whatever higher being you believe in, right? Like that resonates with people. That's something that's like scary for some people to post, but that's what grows your brand and that's what connects you to people. And through that, you help other people realize that they're not alone in these thoughts. And it's actually like, I feel like everybody should have an obligation to post and share value like that, because then it inspires others to do the exact same. And you never know what that domino effect might end up like inspiring X person to do or this person to do. You could literally change people's lives by just sharing those messages in your soul that you're scared to share.
It sounds like it's the authenticity and the realness that actually is what goes viral and what people really resonate with. Because so many people like to be fake on social media. It's the highlight reel.
Yep.
But when we actually share what we were really thinking and really going through, that's what really gets people's attention.
We have to. I mean, I feel like it's everybody's obligation to be honest on social media. And the more honest you are, the more viral you're going to go, the better of a personal brand that you're going to have. I don't think there's even space in the social media space right now for someone to post having a picture perfect life, flying in jets, driving around Ferraris, wearing Rolexes, and just blow up naturally off that anymore. People don't want that anymore. People want to connect with other people. So it's like, it doesn't matter if you have for example, one of the posts that I did recently that did very well is I was talking about why I quit drinking, right? I was like, hey, here's how my drinking used to look like. Going through some mentally dark spaces, I literally used to drink 2 to 3 drinks every single night, just literally sedate myself and get out of this dark reality that I was living in. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to do that anymore. And then I kind of shared my story about overcoming, and a lot of people can resonate with that. There's a lot of people out there. It's they go home and it's the only thing they can do to escape is picking up a bottle and drinking. They need to know that they're not alone. They need to know what others have done to take the steps to get over that and progress through life and kind of get over that hump and find the happiness that they don't believe is there. So to me, it's it's your obligation to shine your light so bright on social media and share the shit that you're scared of, because you never know who you're going to inspire. I literally have had so many posts lately that I'm being so incredibly vulnerable with that even my mom's reached out to me and she's like, I needed to hear this message today. And I was like, that's weird, because I didn't really want to share it because I thought you were going to whoop my ass once you heard about, what I was doing in the closet, right? But it's you never know who you're going to be affecting. I've literally had in the last week a message almost every single day of people being like, hey, I literally left my job because you've inspired me to go live my best life and do what truly makes me happy, straight up. And I can show the messages, but it's crazy how many people that you're truly inspiring. And these are people that they don't like my posts. They don't comment my posts. They don't do anything. They just kind of sit there. And then all of a sudden they send you a novel saying how you changed their life by sharing your truth. That's your responsibility. You should feel guilty for not sharing your truth and not sharing those dark messages that you feel you're going to be judged from on social media. Cause it's you could literally alter someone's trajectory of their entire life. They could be in the darkest mental spot they've ever been in. And by you simply sharing, it helps them find their light again and find their truth path of what they're meant to be on. Or you never know how the universe works, but they may end up sitting in that miserable life the rest of their life, and it's all because they didn't share. Obviously, that's an extreme example, but endless possibilities.
Right. I think a lot of people don't actually realize who's watching and how it impacts them. But once someone reaches out to you and tells you that this made all the difference in the world, it's really worth it at that point. People knowing that you helped someone get through a hard day or help them quit their job or whatever, it's all worth it at that point.
Yep.
We've talked about a lot of different things, mostly on branding, but there's a lot more we could go over. So if people want to learn more from you, you run a group called the Arena. Give us a little rundown on what you teach people.
Yeah, the Arena is my coaching group. I have 2 different segments to it. I have group coaching, which is weekly group calls on business, mindset, fitness, nutrition. And then I have my higher tier program, which is one-on-one, where it includes the group coaching, but also every single week we get on a call for an hour and I walk you through coaching on a one-on-one segment. But yeah, it's a cool little encompassing coaching brand. It originally started for just business. And then I realized that it's never really the business that's stopping people from growing their business. It's every other aspect of their life that they need to get dialed in. And that's truly what actually gets their business up and running and taking off. So yeah, I just felt so called lately to live my best version of my life and shine my light and help other people do the same. And so it's okay, let's go all in on that. I teach a lot of people in there that it's very, very hard to have an honest conversation with yourself and figure out what it is that you truly want to do. When you eliminate the barriers of people's opinions and people's judgment and your perception of yourself that you've built through your worldview and through your experiences, that can be a very raw truth that's hard to even admit in the bottom of your soul. For example, when I left Lions Not Sheep, I wanted to build another e-com brand. And I'm I want to go build this, it'd be fun, blah, 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 blah. My identity was so attached to building e-commerce brands because of the history of what I've done with it. And because of partially there's an ego play in there that I felt that I wanted to do it, right? And after a few months, I'm I had a conversation with my coach and he's like, is that even what you truly want to do? And thinking in my head, I'm you know what? I don't know if that's actually what I want to do. I don't know if I want to deal with logistics and operations and ordering supply chains with all this. I'm I sit in front of the computer every day and I'm just I feel exhausted. But then I realized that my coaching group that I had, every time I'd get on a call, I'd leave and I was so energized and full of life that I was that's what makes me happy. And creating content's what makes me happy. Why would I want to go run this business where I sit in front of the computer and get exhausted Whereas I get off a coaching call and it's like, I'm on, Adderall or something, just like excited, full life, like can't sit still. I'm like, you need something in your life that energizes you like that. And so like, that's what I help people like align with, is living in that state of like high frequency and like truly living what their conscious is telling you to do. So that's part of the coaching, is I help people find that, because it's very, very hard for people to kind of nail that down. And I think a lot of people, unfortunately, are living lives that were not meant to be because of their life experiences and how the dominoes kind of fell into play there.
Right,
So
right.
it's kind of a little gist about it.
That's great. And because like a lot of your business can only be as healthy as you are as a person, and can only be as successful as you are as a person.
Yep.
And so true success to me is having success in your mind, your mindset, being mentally healthy, your fitness, your relationships, and then money.
Yep.
So if you can get all those 4 areas in line,
Yep.
to me, that's success.
Exactly.
And so that's what you help people with, is not just the business part, but it's actually helping all the other areas that feed the business.
Yep.
Perfect. Love it. So if they want to join that, or if they want to learn more about you, where do they go?
I just point everybody to Instagram. Again, everybody should have Instagram.
Yeah, right.
But my Instagram is Alex Urbie, AlexUrbie. You can find me there, and all the links are in the bio.
Perfect. Okay. Well, Alex, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Yep. Thank you.
My guest today was Alex Urban. If you want to learn more about him, follow him on Instagram at Alex Urbie. That's AlexUrbie, where you can also get more information on his one-on-one and group coaching, The Arena. Links are in the show notes. Well, that wraps up another episode of Utah Hustlers. If you got value from this episode, it would mean the world to me if you left a rating and review. And if you already have, thank you so much. Consider sharing this with a friend that you think could use this information to build their business. And until next time, remember, it's not just about knowing what to do, it's about taking the required action. Keep building. If you want to handle the implementation of anything we talk about here on Utah Hustlers, reach out to me on Instagram or click the link in the show notes below. Let's chat for 15 minutes for free. If it's a fit, I'll change your life. If not, I'll guide you to other options for success. Either way, I'd love to meet you and hear all about what you're building.